Thank you.
A németek elfoglalták a várost.
Europe, 1944. Budapest is a trap. The trains are leaving. The doors are closing. The city lives in fear. In just a few weeks, hundreds of thousands of people disappear in wooden train cars. No one trusts the law. No one trusts their neighbor. The street watches. The night rules. In that chaos, a Spaniard appears. He's not wearing a uniform. He doesn't command troops. He works with papers, with stamps, with a flag. His idea is simple and dangerous: to turn bureaucracy into a shield, a piece of paper that can stop a raid, a signature that opens a door, a stamp that can stop a shot, or at least delays it. This is the story of that Spaniard, a discreet man, almost invisible, who decided not to look the other way when Budapest was sinking. What he did didn't change the war. He changed destinies. Ángel Sanz Briz was born in Zaragoza in 1910. He studied law in Madrid. He entered the diplomatic school in 1933, and after several unremarkable postings, he arrived in 1942 at the Spanish legation in Budapest as first secretary. Small office, just enough staff, desk work. Nothing suggested that this city, on the banks of the Danube, would make him the key man for thousands of lives. On March 19, 1944, the Wehrmacht occupied Hungary. The German machinery was set in motion with brutal precision. Between May 15 and July 9, about 440,000 people were deported to Auschwitz. The head of mission left the country, and Sanz Briz, only 30 years old, was left as chargé d'affaires. Outside, armbands and raids. Inside, a desk with letterhead paper, stamps, and a Spanish flag. He looked for a loophole in the law and found it in the royal decree of 1924, intended to grant nationality to Sephardic Jews, descendants of those expelled in 1492. In Spain, it was no longer in force, but in Budapest, they didn't know that. He turned that ignorance into leverage. He started with letters of protection, under the protection of Spain, then passports based on Sephardic ancestry. The formal limit was 200. Absurd given the scale of the horror. The solution was to think in terms of families, a document that covers several people. And when the number ran out, it wasn't magic. It was method and courage. The daily pace was suffocating. Lists with names and addresses, witnesses who confirmed last names, visits to Hungarian offices, calls at odd hours. Sometimes a legal argument stated calmly was enough. Other times a bribe. The goal was simple and ruthless. That today they don't take them away. Tomorrow they would fight again.
If it's written and sealed, today they get through. Name and address.
The street was another battle. Checkpoints on bridges. Trams stopped in the middle of the tracks. Marked doorways. A stamp created doubt. Doubt stopped a hand. That pause could mean life. From now on, we are Spaniards. Spain has given new hope to all of us.
Mindannyiunknak.
That's how Ángel Sanz Briz's operation began, turning an old rule into a shield. The next stage will be bolder, to provide shelter under the flag to those who already have that paper, so that protection doesn't disappear on the first street corner. The papers opened a small window, but it wasn't enough. On the street, a patrol could snatch anyone from their hands in seconds. Ángel Sanz Briz took the next step: create safe spaces. He rented 11 buildings in Budapest and registered them as annexes of the Spanish legation. Plaque on the facade, coat of arms, Spanish flag visible. The idea was simple. If the door said Spain, a raid had to stop and check, which would waste time. That time saved lives. Inside, the rules were clear. Lists at the entrance, meal shifts, controlled entries and exits, silence at nightfall. Mattresses were stacked in the hallways. Meals were cooked with minimal rations. Bread and news were shared. The mission wasn't comfortable. It was possible. And in 1944, possible meant life. Sanz Briz organized a network of managers for each house and a circuit of messengers. Documents that went back and forth. Warnings about inspections, movements of vulnerable groups. The protection of a seal became a wall.
Please always keep your papers with you. Claiming to be Spaniards is the only way to save your lives now.
The Arrow Cross and the Gestapo were checking the doors. Sometimes they tried to come in, sometimes they shouted from the street. There were arguments, threats, and half-hearted inspections. There were also discreet calls and bribes when there was no other way. Sanz Briz maintained the legal fiction with his presence, showing up with a briefcase, speaking with confidence, invoking treaties, repeating formulas until the officer hesitated. That doubt was a victory.
This house is protected by Spain. If you want anything, come back with a written order and seal. You're not coming in today.
The network grew with hospitals and children's homes designated as Spanish to evacuate the sick and children. Official lists were bolstered to show at checkpoints. On the office maps, Budapest began to look like a constellation, red dots marking shelters. He was not invincible. He was resilient. October 1944 broke Budapest. The Arrow Cross took power and unleashed unchecked terror. Random arrests, shootings on the banks of the Danube, forced marches towards Austria. The network of Spanish papers and houses under Spanish protection was already in place, but now it had to be pushed to the limit. Moving families at the last minute, changing routes, remaking lists in minutes, sneaking convoys of the sick as medical transfers, and maintaining the diplomatic front in the face of increasingly violent patrols. Ángel Sanz knew he couldn't be everywhere, so he left clear instructions. He duplicated stamps, handed out contact details, and ordered that no one open a door without a key phrase and an agreed-upon signal.
My God, let the papers arrive already.
Stop!
Alto! These people are Spanish.
Then the order came from Madrid: retreat. The Soviets were close, and the government didn't want diplomats caught in the siege. It was a harsh blow. For Sanz Briz, it meant obeying and abandoning a city that owed its life to his network. He prepared to leave. Lists, keys, phrases, wrote, stamps. He left everything on so it would keep working without him.
Follow the plan. If they hesitate, insist. If they threaten, call. No one is left out.
That's when Giorgio Perlasca appeared, an Italian refugee, former fighter in Spain protected with Spanish documents. He managed the network like his predecessor. At many doors, his tone and a signature were enough to stop a search. In others, he saved lives by shouting. January 1945 brought the Soviets and a broken Budapest. Among ruins and silence, something remained whole. Thousands of people alive thanks to that chain of papers, houses, and quick decisions. The feat was already accomplished, but the name wasn't known yet. war ended and Ángel Sanz didn't seek the spotlight. He continued his diplomatic career, assignment after assignment, as if Budapest had been just another case. It wasn't. In Rome, years later, he would die in 1980 without any major tributes. The recognition would come later, much later. He saved more than 5,200 Jews. Only about 200 were of Sephardic origin. First came the testimonies, survivors who told how a Spanish flag on a door had stopped a raid. Families who showed a wrinkled paper with a seal and a number written out in words. Stories that matched. A young, firm, polite diplomat who turned paperwork into salvation. The name gradually became known until Yad Vashem recognized him as righteous among the nations. A Spaniard armed with old laws and cool-headed courage on the list of those who did not look the other way.
These documents are not just simple papers. It's time, here. Someone bought time.
In Budapest, they put his name on a street and put up plaques next to some of the former Spanish safe houses. In Zaragoza, busts and schools remember him. But his greatest memorial isn't bronze. They are the descendants of those who crossed a door with a Spanish coat of arms and survived. Children who are now grandparents. Last names that were never erased. That's what remains.
My mother told me, we're breathing. I am this door.
The outcome was enormous. It was a feat shared with other brave people, but the initial push bore the signature of Ángel Sanz. His method didn't change the war, it changed destinies. And that, in 1944, was worth more than an army. When we look at that besieged city today, we understand its lesson. The law, when used well, can be a wall, the flag, a refuge, ink, a just weapon. That's how an epic is written without fanfare. That's how an unassuming hero works. Ángel Sanz Briz, the Angel of Budapest.
If you liked the video and would like to help me in my work teaching the history of Spain, you can become a member of the channel with a monthly contribution of less than €2. You will be helping me pay for more than 10 programs I have to use to make these videos. Many thanks to the whole community of the Historia Hispana channel. I'll see you in the next video.